Hey, guys, how are you? How are
Hey,
you? Hi, I heard you are very well. Welcome to this new EMA, guys, with the Plume Network team. How are you, Teddy?
good, good. How are you doing, John? Thanks for having us today. Super excited to be here.
Nice. Thank you for you here. Glad you are well, Teddy. Welcome to this space with our Alliance S community. And honestly, excited for this EMA. As this real world asset concept really appeals to me, and along with our audience, are excited for what you are going to tell us today.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. I'm happy to give a quick background on myself, and I guess my role at Plume. So I'm actually I'm one of the co-founders here, leading most of like our go-to-market strategy on the BD marketing community side. Before Plume, I used to work in traditional finance. I worked in investment banking, doing tech M&A in San Francisco. And in 2021, I joined the crypto industry. So I joined Coinbase. I was on their corporate development and ventures team. So I was in charge of, evaluating different acquisitions and looking at venture deals ranging from pre-seed to Series A or B. And then from Coinbase, I went deeper into the crypto space. So I joined a DeFi protocol as their head of BD, and then from there moved to Binance to work at BNB Chain, which is actually where the idea of Plume basically got started. But I can tell you guys more about that later on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you, Guy. It's important to say, do your own research, please. This is not financial advice. Teddy, before we start with the EMA, I know that a few weeks ago you were in the Web3 Denver ETH event. By how was that event? Tell us a little bit, please.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So our team, we were at Eat Denver. It was actually a great conference. A lot of us. Oh, nice. There's a picture on the side.
Yes. I brought some.
There you go. Yeah. So Chris on the left is my co-founder, and then Ivy in the middle. She leads our capital markets BD. So no, it was a great event. I mean, we spoke at several panels. Oh, look, there it is. That's one of the panels we spoke on with the Privy team. But yeah, we spoke at multiple panels, had our own RWA event. I think yeah, this is actually a picture of the event. Chris spoke on stage at the Unstable, basically an RWA conference, 1 day conference with other RWA leaders. It was great, man. It was nice to meet our ecosystem projects in person, meet our tech partners, basically meet people
Yeah.
we've been speaking with over the internet. It's always nice to meet them in person and really talk through our ideas and what we have coming in the roadmap. But I think it was definitely good social proofing for us just to kind of hear how people thought about us and see how they reacted, and it was pretty positive. So it made our team definitely very excited. So yeah, I mean, I would say the only bad thing was that we all got sick leaving. It was just so crazy out there. But besides that, no, everything was solid.
That's awesome. How great that was a great experience for you. Personally, I like a lot these events because it's an opportunity to networking, which is great, to learn, to get to know new technologies. So I like.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no,
yes,
it was great. Were you there, by the way?
I can, I can, but
Oh,
I hope to go to the next event.
okay, nice.
So yeah, so let's get started, Teddy, with the MA. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right. So yes, tell us about your background, please, and your role in Bloom Network more in detail, please.
Yeah. So I guess I touched upon this earlier very briefly, but I can talk about it again. So, I'm one of the co-founders. I'm leading the go-to-market strategy here. Previously I worked in traditional finance, was an investment banker doing tech M&A. I moved to Coinbase in 2021 to work on their corporate development and ventures team. where I was doing like a bunch of strategic acquisitions and venture deals from like pre-seed to Series A, sometimes Series B. Um, and then joined one of my friends building a DeFi protocol. It was a multi-chain protocol, but native to Solana. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. So I went to Binance to do ecosystem for BNB chain, specifically in the US, in New York.
Great, great. I know that you guys have a great team with a great experience. Guys, if you want to know more detail about Plume Network team, you can go to their social media and check it out.
There you go.
So yeah, before asking about Plume Network, we want to know how about the real world asset concept. So what is it and why has there been a recent surge in interest?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, real world assets. The concept is it's basically tokenizing what would usually be in the real world in the traditional sense, and moving it onto the blockchain. So if you think about like different assets, you can like tokenize real estate, you can tokenize private credit, you can tokenize a bunch of different things. And the reason why people tokenize assets is for, a variety of reasons and benefits, such as like efficiency, automation and back office work. It's actually more capital efficient at times. You don't have to, pay for the middleman when you're transacting. You can get instant settlement as opposed to waiting like T+2, T+3 days. You can get global access to different assets, crypto liquidity. And basically, I think, in my mind, I think one of the most important things is composability. And that's something I'll talk about later. But, basically, how do you make use of an illiquid asset in the real world, in the Web3 space? And I think composability really answers that question.
Thanks for sharing this information, Terry. It's interesting to know that every month more and more companies, individuals, and investors are joining in this, right? And these technologies.
Yeah.
Um, okay, now let's start talking about Plume Network in more detail.
Okay.
What is Plume Network? And how does Plume integrate this technology into the blockchain?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, Plume itself, we're an EVM L2 that's, specifically dedicated for RWAs, and we're modular in nature. So what that kind of means is, our chain is specifically designed for, onboarding different types of real world assets. So no matter, what asset you're trying to deploy, and it doesn't matter, like basically wherever, what legal jurisdiction you're in, um, our chain has all the infrastructure needs that builders would need when they're really working on these projects early on. And like to give you some examples, like some high level examples, like, if a project needed, like on and off ramps or KYC, or some sort of like transfer agent or some sort of tokenization feature, to deploy their project, they can come to Plume. They can pull up our dashboard and they can choose whichever integrations they specifically need for their asset and deploy basically out of the box. And since we are our own chain, um, it's we have a lot more control on like certain features we would need to kind of change. So, our CTO also is making a lot of different smart contract changes, more so like on the chain level to make, specific RWA operations more efficient, like on-chain attestation, KYC, data sampling, basically pulling things from the real world on chain. And, we just want to make it very easy for the next wave of builders to deploy any types of assets they would want to onto the blockchain. So that's why we wanted to create, a chain that handles this infrastructure need, but also introduces a whole variety of different DeFi products as well to help unlock liquidity and enable trading of these types of assets. And I can go into that more so later on.
Right, right. That's some interesting. Thanks, guys, for support this stream. Thanks for your likes. Thanks for you support us. Thank you. Hello, welcome to everyone that will be here with us. Thank you. Right, right. That's so interesting, Teddy. Nice.
Awesome.
So yes, could you share more information about Plume Network modular L2 architecture and its advantage for real world asset projects?
Yeah. So I kind of touched upon the last question. Sorry, I didn't realize, but our
Yeah.
modular architecture is very unique in the sense that, we're using other data availability layers for that part of the blockchain stack. So if you think of like EigenDA or like Celestia, we're actually integrating Celestia right now. We'll be using Celestia to basically minimize our gas fees on our chain by almost like 90, I think it's like around like 99%. So that, the chain is basically a lot more gas efficient. Projects can onboard and transact at a fraction of a cost. And therefore we're definitely more scalable. So you know, we can onboard of like exponential amount of projects compared to, before on like a traditional monolithic chains. And like I touched upon earlier, there's a bunch of integrations that we have built into the chain. There's a lot of, on-chain operations that, we're optimizing for specific real world asset projects. So there's a lot of interesting tech that we're building here at Plume. And I think that for the next wave of builders coming in, it'll be super efficient and effective for them, especially as they look to, deploy different types of assets.
Right, right. Plume network technology is interesting. Guys, remember to want to know this more detail, you can go to the white paper and your website. Also, the admins on Discord and Telegram are there to help you.
Yeah.
All right, Teddy. How does Plume Network ensure compliance and security in the process of tokenizing real world assets?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. Look, like for us, we're the infrastructure, like the blockchain layer. So right now we integrate with a lot of licensed and compliant partners to basically leverage, their licenses to go to market quickly. So because we take this structure, in our go-to-market approach, we can easily, work with different partners in different regions of the world and be compliant where they are, I guess, based out of and focused on. Um, and I guess to get a little bit more into the details, like we do have, specific architecture, the compliance piece that's, pretty native to Plume. Like an example is, we have our chain isn't by any means a KYC chain, but to give you an example, we have a KYC architecture where once you KYC once, you'll receive a soulbound token, and then you can transact on any projects that would need KYC on Plume. So you can kind of freely roam around and play with different projects. And another example is, like if we're tokenizing security tokens, we work with different licensed partners, different alternative trading systems where, those those different types of assets would be, facilitated via our partners, but still on Plume. So we have a lot of mechanisms in place to make sure everything is compliant and secure. But yeah, I would say, on a high level, that's basically how we think about everything. We always want to make sure, we give our partners the right tools to build what they want to build as soon as possible, because we know that, in the crypto space, you got to move quick. And
Yes.
so, yeah.
Great, great. It's good that you point that out. I'm glad to hear that you follow all the legal requirements to operate. That is so, so important. So, yes, let's move on a bit to future plans. All right, Teddy?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yes, what are Plume Network future plans and how do you think the platform will evolve in the coming years?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like I would say the end state of our chain is basically a chain where there are, a bunch of different applications. People can come in, they can buy different RWAs, they can speculate, they can borrow against them, they can trade on leverage if they want to. But at the same time, we have a bunch of different assets, that are yield bearing in nature. So, once you're done playing around with the different applications, you can park your money into these pools and still make, 8 to 12 to 50% of real yield paid out in stables and not random governance tokens. So I think, by having this kind of ecosystem, it's super beneficial for capital allocators because when they look to, invest into a specific RWA on Plume, they can easily, cross pollinate and invest into another asset without having to bridge to another chain, without having to, worry about, wrapping and unwrapping and whether or not like a pair has enough liquidity to facilitate a trade. By having everything live on one chain, we definitely make it, the one-stop shop for everyone who wants to invest in our RWAs. And we make it very easy to do so. And, right now, in terms of our future plans, we are on our private test net. And we have around 57 projects or so building. And we'll be looking to move to our incentivized test net in around a month and a half or so. From there, we'll keep testing the product and then look to launch our main net, probably I would say end of Q2 or early Q3. That's our timeline right now.
You heard it, guys. Remember to keep an eye on the Plume network. Be very careful. Be sure to enter the official links and stay tuned for more surprise from Plume network.
Yeah.
That is, yes. That is interesting, Teddy. All right, Teddy. Let's move on to the last question in this first section. Okay. I think it's very good question. I know that many of us here will be interested in what you had to tell us. Recently, several Web3 projects have been adopting the real-world asset concept. What sets Plume Network apart from its competitors, and why should we choose Plume Network?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Look, I would say there's a lot of, projects that are building in the RWA space. And if you think of like the different chains that are looking to do this, there isn't really a chain that is totally catered towards the RWA space in the way that we're kind of viewing things as, a permissionless chain. We're not fully KYC'd. So we can let on a bunch of different asset classes from like collectibles, synthetics, all the way to the more regulatory heavy assets like that are upstream. And I think that, a lot of chains today, they're either more general chains with like a small component dedicated to RWAs, or, they're permissioned. So they're more of like a private network. Or, they're really just networks for, big institutions to send money back and forth to each other. Like I know there's a few of those chains out in Asia as well. So I guess like the way we think about RWAs, kind of the RWA chain that has, DeFi composability, kind of as a part of the story. I don't think that there is like a pure competitor doing this right now. There are chains that, have worked on a few things and have been kind of slowly pivoting into, the RWA space. But this wasn't like their first focus. So they aren't as fully specialized as us. They're not permissionless. And they are, I guess, I would say they have been playing with other ideas, but now they're kind of fully moving in. So yeah, I mean, I think for Plume, we've had this idea for a while. We, got the idea firsthand from, our personal experiences. And before, starting the project, we actually spoke with a bunch of different projects in the RWA space to see if this is something, that would be of interest. And because of that, we've been able to build towards an actual problem that people need, which is why I think we've been able to, have the traction that we have today. It's because we're actually, helping solve an issue and we're helping to kind of push the space forward with our partners. So I think it's super exciting. I think the competitor question is definitely a good question, but I would say that even though there's a lot of adjacent chains kind of doing a flavor of RWAs, there isn't a chain out there that kind of approaches it the way that we do here at Plume.
Okay, excellent, very good answer. Thanks for clearing up out dub. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. So, greeting for Mohamed, uh, Andres. Hello. Thank you for to be here. So, yes, let's move on to the next section, guys. Will we give away $100. We picked the best 5 questions from our tweet. So good luck, guys. Good luck. Yes, 700 views. 30. That's awesome.
Oh,
Right now.
wow. Awesome.
Yes.
Let's go.
All right. So the first winner is this first winner, Fernand. As an investor, what advantages do I have by entering the real world asset through Plume network?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of touched upon it earlier, but as an investor, if you want to, invest in real world assets, it would make the most sense to go to a place where all the assets lived in one spot. It's like if you're, going into a mall and shopping versus going to each individual store all around town. It's a lot more efficient to just go to the mall and just, walk across the hallway and, go from one store to another. So I think a good way to think of Plume is, basically if you come to Plume, you're stepping into that mall and you can, invest into all these different assets. And you don't have to worry about bridging in and out of the ecosystem. You don't have to worry about, all the, I guess, the operational headaches. So by going to Plume, you can easily just deploy your capital wherever you want very easily.
It's great that investor have so many advantages and options, right? And the Plume network ecosystem. Um, so yes, next winner. Next winner is Olvida. Uh, there has been talk about a token. Is there a launch date? And can you reveal a bit about its utility?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. Um, I would say, we're looking to launch our mainnet later this year, probably end of Q2 or early Q3. So I think that's a good tentative date to have in mind. Our future token will be similar to like a governance token. You'll be able to eventually Plume will be fully decentralized, and the community can help us shape different decisions. So I would say definitely stay tuned. Join our Discord, join our Twitter to get the latest updates on everything token related, because we'll definitely share more about that as we get closer to launch.
You heard it, guys. Pay close attention to what Teddy just said. Big things are coming for a Bloom this year, next year, so stay tuned. All right. All right, Teddy. Third question. I really like this question. Really honest with you. Personally, I would like to invest in real estate and art, as they are very good investment assets, but they are expensive. Can I participate in this asset through Bloom Network?
Yeah, definitely. We actually have a bunch of, a variety of different, very interesting real estate projects building on our testnet right now. We have a project that isn't on our ecosystem right now, but they are building right now on the side, and they will have more collectibles, art, wine, and whiskey. So they have all those types of assets, and Yeah, so you'll be able to invest in these types of assets on Plume, and I would say the advantage of coming to Plume for these types of assets are like you said, like the barrier to entry usually is pretty high as these assets are pretty expensive, but by tokenizing these different assets on chain, you can actually buy like a fraction of a house or a fraction of an artwork, but yet you can still receive like the pro rata yield that gets passed through back to the token holder from the real estate side. Or you can still, you can still see the price appreciation of each asset. So, yeah, I would say take a look at our ecosystem map on our Twitter. We have a bunch of, yield bearing or real estate art type projects there for you to start discovering.
Wow, wow. It's incredible. All the Plume network, Web3, uh, blockchain allow us to do, right? I really like your answer.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
all right. For question, next winner is Henry.
Hmm.
I read on your website that by acquiring part of a house and tokens, can I receive extra benefit if
Oh,
it's rented out? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
yeah, so it's kind of what I just touched upon. Like if you let's say the house costs $10, you buy a dollar worth of the house, you own 10%. You know, you would get 10% of the rental income passed back to the token. And since you own 10% of the house, if the house goes up in price or goes down in price, you have exposure to the price movement there. So that's typically how it works. I'm sure that, some of these real estate projects have um, more like sophisticated ways of, maneuvering through how they, work their product. But on a high level, that is, basically how it would work with these types of projects.
Very interesting. I see a lot of possibility with this technology. I hope guys that your doubts are being clarified. And finally, Teddy, our community question section, our last winner, it's Boy Crypto. Congratulations. I have several properties. What benefits do I have by tokenizing my properties?
Yeah, I guess it kind of goes back to what I mentioned at the beginning. Um, you know, when you tokenize something, um, you can get more liquidity um, quicker. So basically, yeah, if you tokenize a home, you put it on chain, you can grab liquidity from the crypto markets. Um, Usually when you have a home and you sell it, you have to have a broker in between. But let's say you were to tokenize a home and put it on chain, you're basically cutting out the middleman, and you don't need to pay the 3 or 4% fee that you would for selling a home. Um, so it is more efficient as well. A lot of like the back end office work is just facilitated through the blockchain. I mean, the blockchain is ultimately a ledger. You can keep track of things. It's immutable. You can always go back and see, you know, the history and like the details of a transaction. Um, and yeah, I mean, I think that there's like composability and there's other utility that can be derived from tokenizing different assets, especially your properties. But yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting space right now. That's why a lot of people are looking to have these properties tokenized. I feel like I speak with a few real estate projects every week or so. So it's definitely a big movement right now. I mean, it definitely makes sense. So I think that if you're ever interested in speaking about it, please reach out to us. DM me on Twitter. I'm happy to talk to you and talk through the whole flow.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, 1,000 views right now. Thank you for your support, guys. That's awesome. Thank you very much, Terry. I enjoy our conversation today, and I know that many of us who are present here live also enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yes, and to conclude for today, Terry, and In alliances, we want to motivate and inspire those people who have in mind to build something, start something, or already started their own projects. So that's why I want to ask you one last question
Mhm.
is what advice would you give to those who are starting or planning to start their own projects?
Yeah, that is a good question. I would say, starting your own project definitely takes some time. Like you definitely need to go through the ropes and, have the right experiences and really have a feel for, everything that would need to be done at your potential project. I would say also like networking is pretty important. You want to definitely have, the right team with you. And when you're at like an early stage startup, you really have to have trust in your coworkers. So, you know, having the right initial team members to help you build out the product is super important. And I would say like, I've seen friends just kind of rush into starting their own project, but I would say like take your time, like definitely take your time, due diligence, in the idea and in the market, in the industry that you're building in, because at the end of the day, like at a small company, you don't really have anyone else to look towards, like for help. You basically need to be driving what the decision should be every single day, in order to push a company forward. And that, in my opinion, only comes from like having seen it multiple times before.
Thanks, Terry. I know that your advice will be very useful to many of us. On behalf of Alliance X or community, we wish you all the Plume Network team a lot of success. So,
Awesome.
boom,
Yeah.
boom.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure to be here. Obviously, Gene, this is a great event you hosted for us. And
Yes.
always happy to work together. But yeah, just wanted to say thanks again for having us today.
Thanks, thanks. Bye.
All right, see you guys. Cheers.
See you.